technology now.
Hi, this is Dr. Annie Clark with the Pennsylvania Coalition of Public Charter Schools and our show, Growing Up Charter. Today we're joined by Kristen Bishop. Hey, Christine, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Clark. Appreciate that.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you. I've been thinking about it. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your school?
Sure. So I'm the head of Avon Grove Charter School, the CEO. Avon Grove Charter School is a little different than your typical charter school. Most charter schools open in urban areas. However, this is a very rural area of Chester County. We are almost 10 minutes from Delaware and 10 minutes from Maryland and right in Pennsylvania. So University of Delaware is like literally a hop, skip, and a jump. And then we're the southern part of Chester County. Chester County schools are really good. And so, we are really, charter school came into Avon Grove because the district was closing down their neighborhood schools and building mega schools. And this was 21 years ago. Okay. And the parents really said, we don't want our neighborhood schools closed down. We want them to stay open and a charter school formed. And so it really is the best of both worlds, where we are a public school and have public school mandates, but have that family private school feel. And that's what we formed here at Avon Grove Charter. Something that's very different than a typical charter school here is that we have a really good relationship with our authorizing school district, Avon Grove. And so we really interchange kids depending on the time of year, sports, whatever it is. And the working relationship my teachers have, my administrators have, I have with the superintendent is a working relationship and professional relationship. So I can't tell you how that has helped the school and really should be what the model is for all charter schools. It really makes a difference when you have a good working relationship with your authorizer. So that is what's really special about Avon Grove Charter, just that, it's not constant resistance in the community. It's actually welcomed, and we work in harmony, which is awesome.
That is awesome. And you're right, that is very unique. And yet it was the relationship I had at Lincoln and York as well with our authorizer. And it really did help me a lot in our school a lot. How do you credit that relationship becoming healthy, or was it always that way? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it was not always that way. I think, I've been at Avon Grove Charter School for 15 years. And so I think being here as long as I have in leadership and being able to go to meetings and work with the parents and consistently meet with the superintendent, take them around the campus, make sure they understand the programming that we're doing, and really keeping them as a partner and cultivating that relationship is really what it's about. Not being afraid of jumping in and saying, no, that's not actually what happens. I think people shy away from the hard conversations, and that is really how you make movement. And you have to bring as many people in as you can to show them the great things that are happening at your school.
I agree with you 100%. The more transparent you can be with the work that you're doing, and the more that you open up your doors and welcome people in, the less resistance you will have, because people will say, oh, they are doing good work. And so I definitely agree with you on that. So I see you have your awesome Eagles gear on. Can you tell me about
I do. That? So let me tell you, the news is very hard to get to Southern Chester County. They love Philadelphia news. However, to come out an hour to Southern Chester County is not usual for us. But you say Eagles, and Channel 10 said, I'll be there. Wow. So Channel 10 is coming today with their camera crew, and the kids are really excited. We should be on the news. So I had to come. Sorry, I'm not in my professional gear. I'm representing. I actually started in Philadelphia. My both parents were born in Philadelphia, and then I lived in Bucks County. So I wasn't always a native of Chester County, and it really doesn't matter. Chester County, Bucks County, Philadelphia, they're all Eagles fans around here.
That's right.
And we're going to win. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
That's right. Win the Super Bowl. That's right. That's wonderful. Wow. congratulations on the news coming to your school. That's going to be awesome. And we're going to watch for that for sure.
Yes, very exciting.
I see that you do a lot of innovative work at your school. I follow that, on our social media, and I see that you guys are always doing something different. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think charter schools are always trying to find their niche, right? And what's really hard is that you're in constant competition with your district, who most of the time has more money than you. And so, they're trying to do the most innovative thing. We're trying to do the most innovative thing. And that I've always said, I welcome that, because that just means we're better and better and better for kids. So, when we said full day kindergarten and they said full day kindergarten, yay, all kindergarten wins. When we say we're going to do a STEM program and they do a STEM program, yay, every child wins when that happens. So I feel like, we're always trying to stay on top of the most current things that kids need. And what I find right now, and it's always changing, right? That's always COVID happened. Social emotional health is really important. So we're really trying to immerse ourselves and educate ourselves and work within what the kids need here. I think sometimes it's easy to just say, oh, this is the current trend word. This is what we're doing. Then try to dump programming that necessarily doesn't work for your teachers, doesn't work for your kids. So I think it's really important to kind of take a step back and look at who's in your school and what they need. Obviously technology was something that we found really important, and we are appreciative of that, because when COVID happened, it was like we had to be one-to-one. There was no choice. And so we staying on top of those trends, I find, is really part of being in school, especially a brick and mortar school that kids need those resources.
Mm-hmm.
I really think it's funny that one program that people love about our school is the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have a micro farm, and we have animals, and the kids really love it. And anybody that comes to our school, they're like, this is really unique.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say, well, not for where we live. Like, this is not unique. However, my Coatesville kids that come for a more urban area, that is very unique to them. So I love that I have 13 districts that come to my school in Chester County and get to experience different things that might not be significant in their community. And really, I love how my arts all work together with that interdiscipline. So, with the farm, we have a honeybee club, and they do a whole honey unit where they extract the honey from the bees.
Oh.
And then our graphic design team made the labels for the honey. And so they kind of really work together. Our micro farm, when we do the sheep shearing, the arts teacher used the fiber arts in her art class. So like, there's all of this interconnection and co-teaching that happens in what we're doing here. So I do love that part of our arts program.
I love that too. Was the farm part of the original charter, or is that something that came about later because you saw a benefit to it?
It evolved because we saw a benefit to it. So that evolved. Right now, we're talking a lot about entrepreneurship. These kids are coming in with Etsy accounts or TikTok accounts, making money, in some cases more than the adults in the building, because of what they're trying to sell or do. And so we're trying to really stay current on that part of school. Sometimes, yes, STEM is important, engineering, all of those things. And we do have a lot of kids that are interested in that programming that we offer. But I do find that if we don't stay current, it evolves so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm watching these kids do now is unbelievable. I mean, their jobs are way different than our jobs that we had in school. Like, I worked for an Anheuser-Busch company. I worked for Sesame Place, and I did as much as I could and at a bakery. Like, that's what you did. You worked at fast food places, restaurants, whatever it is. These kids are working from home from their computers, selling sneakers, turning around videos, and they're making a lot of money. So we're trying to help them be the entrepreneur that they are, and give them those skills too, and try to stay with them, because we're learning with them, which is really kind of cool that the adults are learning with the kids.
How do you credit that you've given your staff sort of the security to go to unknown areas of education, because that is very scary for teachers? But how have you built that confidence in them to take chances and to learn from the students?
I think it's a work in progress every day. I think teachers are really overwhelmed now, no matter what. I think that really kind of helping them with the professional development that they need to feel the confidence and give them individual professional development and try to listen. I do a lot of roundtables. I do a lot of town hall meetings so that I'm really in tune to what the teachers need and what they're saying. I think since COVID, and even technology and social media, like if you go on to any of those sites, you see teachers everywhere around the world saying, why are we a teacher? What are we doing? How much money are we making? There's shows on TV talking about the hardship of teaching. And I think mental health, it feeds that, like, wow, this is a really hard job. This is really overwhelming. So when you ask them to do more and you ask them to be innovative and step out of the box, they really struggle. Like I am at the most I can do right now. And so I think really chunking things for them and telling them what's the priority, making the gains that we need to make, but then say, hey, there's always time to give kids their time to learn too with you. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. And we're not on top of you where we're penalizing you. We're learning together. I think that really that partnership there is really important. And the trust is huge.
Yes, absolutely. I love that you said about chunking the learning for our teachers and also creating that individual professional development. I think that is something that has been missing. And I know even in the work that I had done for years, we were so focused on our students and our parents and making sure that engagement was there. I think we did forget about our teachers. And then we came into this pandemic, and at that point, it was like we just had to stop and say, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Do we continue to do it? Is it serving us well? Or is it just one more thing on a list? And stopping the work long enough to do the work. So I really appreciate you poured into your staff that way. And I can see that it's really paying off for your school and your students, which is ultimately what it's about. How have you engaged your parents, and what kind of role do they have in your school?
So, we have an active community. We have a boosters club and a PTO and parents that volunteer. Like any school, we see the younger K-3 building. We have a lot of parents involved in wanting to come into the school. As they get older and more independent, they also tend to, donate in different ways, which not necessarily their time, but maybe financially or however that works. I do find parents are really busy now more than ever too, working from home, jobs that are everywhere, and both parents working. It's a different time. And I find that, immersing them in social media as well and giving them a platform we do a lot of donations and fundraisers that are, pledges, give to our we did an actual fundraiser in the fall. It's called Raise Craze, and it's about the amount of kindness that kids spread. Wow. Which we do really well, but we have a big map and we try to cover every state. So even when we get to that Wisconsin, I'm like, I have family in Wisconsin, let me see, even $1, let's fill the map. But I find engagement can really happen even more because of people's presence on social media. So we do a lot of Instagram and Facebook engagement, and we get a lot of response that way because our parents are on them.
Yes, I can definitely see that you have a very active community on social media. It's one of the platforms that I use as well to engage people across the state because people are on it. So I've seen that. I feel like you really tell the story daily about what's happening in your school. I feel like I always know what's happening at your school, which is very exciting. Who does, so for other school leaders who are watching, who does your social media? Is there multiple people who do that?
So we do have our teachers, obviously, we try to tell them as much. If you have something going on in your classroom today or something exciting that they learned, please send it. We do have a communications coordinator who gets those stories and engages daily on social media for us. Our administrators are really good about that and helping and supporting and putting our story online so that they can see what's happening, because one person can't capture 2,000 kids almost and 230 employees. So I think it's really about, again, a community coming together to make sure that we understand that's a part of our job too, to make sure we're engaging our community and all be a part of the stories that we're putting online. But we do have one person who kind of manages that social media every day.
That's awesome. The person who does your social media, they do other forms of communication and engagement in your school?
I mean, that's primarily her job, along with newsletters that go out quarterly. Our principals really own the weekly news that goes out to the parents. But ultimately, she does a lot of social media. She coordinates the videos that we take of the kids. And she's working on fundraising with us too. But it really is a team of people that kind of get involved in that. The
Yeah.
daily communication, letters from me, letters from the principal, we still own those kind of communications.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. That really personalizes it. Can you tell us a little bit about your own journey to leadership and
Well,
maybe
when
the
I
good and
saw,
bad?
yeah, you know, when I saw growing up charter, I can't, that's actually how I feel. Like, I tell people when I die, it will say, "Here lies Kristen Bishop, charter schools are public schools." Like, I have spent my whole life advocating for charter schools. And I'll be honest with you, like, I can't believe sometimes I see these kids grow up and now they have their own babies that are coming here. And I'm like, wait, I cannot be that old. How is
Right.
that happening? And so it really, I don't feel that old, or I don't act that old, but I obviously, I've been in charter schools for 23 years, and
Yeah.
there's something to say for that because I've seen it evolve. I've seen the coalition evolve. I've seen leaders all over. I did start out, I student taught in England. And
Oh.
so, you know, it was a very cool experience. I got to see a different country and really like how education has evolved.
Mhm.
And I went right from my student teaching experience in England to Philadelphia, which was culture shock for me in a very different setting. Now, I went to school in Bucks County. I was 30 minutes from Philadelphia, but I wasn't teaching in Kensington, which was difficult.
Mhm.
And at the time when you graduate, and this was 22, almost 23 actually years ago, you know, every kid goes and graduates and thinks they're going to be in a wealthy school district making the most money that you can make. But that's not the reality. And so really what was happening then was charter schools were just evolving. And what they
Mhm.
were trying to say was, come to our school as a young teacher, learn and grow with us, and we'll give you the experience. Well, wow, Philadelphia gave me the experience. There is nothing I've experienced behaviorally or even just emotionally that
Mhm.
I didn't at 22 years old walking into a Kensington classroom. It really
Right.
set the tone for me going forward. But in that role, I learned very quickly that I wanted to make a difference in a school, not just in a classroom. And
No.
I really wanted to be a part of the culture of a school. And I think that really stems from who I was prior to even teaching. You know, like I said before, I worked for an Anheuser-Busch company, and at a young age, I was moved into management. And I say an irate New Yorker that comes to a theme park is kind of similar to an irate kindergarten parent who comes in upset, right? Like, I've been training since I've been 16 for this role.
Right.
And I think that, you know, as I evolved and I got to see different things, I came here into Chester County fairly quickly, like 5 years into it.
Mhm.
And that has just taken off. You know, charter schools then became, I went to a Catholic school. So for me, it was, I always disliked how maybe Catholic school didn't have the same mandates or expectation, but parents were paying for this private school setting, and kids were graduating and not taking similar state testing. And then I was like, they were struggling because they didn't have the same expectations, but parents were paying for a stellar education.
Right.
So seeing the best of both worlds, where you're a public school with public school mandates, and you still want that small private school feel where kids get what they need. I love the idea of that.
Yeah.
So moving into Chester County, it's been a little more difficult to understand. There's, no tuition coming in, and then fighting for that fair funding, watching your districts raise taxes, but not necessarily seeing us being able to benefit from some of the same grant money or the same facilities breaks in is really hard. And trying to get parents engaged, saying, yes, you're sending your kid to a public school, but we really need you to treat us like a private school and give us donations and help us. That has been a tug and pull for many, many years. And it can be a lot of ebbs and flows. Like, who would have anticipated ESSER's money and COVID and all of those things? But I do find when leaders are at the core of a school for a long period of time, and they've seen those ebb and flows, and they've been a part of the decision making when it's hard and when it's great, it really makes a difference. When you have leadership coming in and out of schools and starting over and starting over and starting over, it just, I have seen in my career, it never gets that school to the next phase. So being at the school for 15 years and having some of the same leadership with me, I think has made a lot of our success.
Absolutely. I love you hit on so many important points about our charter schools. And I titled it Growing Up Charter because I feel like I grew up at Lincoln, being there 22 years and coming up from, actually starting in the kitchen and then ending up being the CEO prior to coming into this position. So I agree with you. I saw it all. There's nothing I haven't seen, which prepared me for this position as well. And, our charter schools are unique. And I love the fact that you shared, this is a question I'm going to start asking everybody, that you had went to Catholic school and had sort of your own school choice scenario. And I went to private school too. I went to like a Montessori school for elementary and then went to public school for middle and high school. It almost seems like everybody who advocates for school choice or for charter schools had that experience themselves and sees the benefit in it. So that's really cool. That's why it's called Growing Up Charter, because we're all growing up charter. That's true.
And I think everybody wants a school, especially for their elementary school child growing up, and even their high school kids. They want that personal feel. There's always an opportunity to be the big Penn State and the little state school, right? And when they're growing and learning, you want them to have that intimate school environment. And what I do find here is, my kids at the school, my teachers' kids at the school, really growing up together and watching families grow up together. And there's something to say about that and understanding what that means to a family. I think a lot of people don't put the value in that. They think it's not that big of a deal, right? That there's having a big gymnasium means more to them. And I find that is not the case. In every family that I meet, it's really about going into a school and having that feeling of a really positive school culture, and I know my child's going to be taken care of here. That means everything to parents.
I can't tell you how many parents over the years said to me that when the janitor knew the student's first name, that meant everything to them. And over the years, I can't tell you how many people posted that on Facebook, or the crossing guard, or when there was a situation in the cafeteria and the food service person went a little further to get the child a juice versus something else because they were having that kind of day. You're absolutely right. It's definitely about relationships, and all of us want our children to have champions in the school, to have someone who knows them, is looking out for them, and making them a priority. We all want that for our kids. That's for sure. What advice would you give a new leader coming into any school, but definitely our charter schools, about leadership?
I think I would say give yourself some grace and make sure you don't try to take on too much too fast. I'm a big my biggest downfall is that I think my timing on things is not the best. So I always think things happen fast and instantly. And that planning part is really hard for me because I want to see programs or ideas just happen quickly for kids. And there is something to say, and I've learned in my 23 years for sure, that you just have to pause, and really planning is important. And you can't sit on it forever, but you do have to walk through the scenarios and make sure that your planning is there, because if it's not, it won't last as long as you want these changes to sustain. So I really have taken the time in my career now to try not to rush into decisions. Obviously, there's some things that you do have to make quick decisions on,
Yeah.
but there are things that you really do have to talk with your team, collaborate with your team, walk through the planning so that when you execute something, it can sustain itself and actually last.
Oh, that's great advice. I love that advice. This has been a great conversation, and I hope that in the next month or so you would come back and me and you can dig deeper into leadership.
Sure. Yeah,
Awesome.
I
Well,
really appreciate this. I think it's a great way to get to know other leaders in the community.
absolutely. I have learned so much from every interview. And just, I find it very inspiring, like to hear your story. It's just so inspiring to me. And, and it makes sense that your school is doing so well because you've grown up there and you're thinking about everything, and, you're leading teachers to the next level. So I'm confident that you guys will get there because you're adjusting. You're not just saying, oh, well, that's what we've always done, so that's what we should do. So this has been really informative to me.
Well, I thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you.
Go Eagles.
Go Eagles.